G'day, Aisha Mahara here with yet another comment response. So I hope that these will be helpful for people. This comment was left on the video that I did recently, BPD idealization phase connected to infantile needs. And the commenter says, it's another long comment by the way, the week prior to me being discarded, I was love bombed and idealized. She was on the phone telling me how much she loved me. Okay. I was the best husband, etc. It was a ton of love, more than I'd ever heard from my wife at once. Well, let's just start with that, right? Because were you being love bombed and idealized, or in effect, I think, as the comment goes on, re-idealized by your wife with BPD on the phone telling her how much she loved you? Not really, because words sound great. And when you're hearing what you want to hear, that feels wonderful. But it's usually not very true, unfortunately. So not sure that that was really love bombing and idealization. And I'm sure that it could have felt that way, but I'm not sure that it actually meets, not criteria, but that it overall, when I read your comment, when I think about this, when I work with clients, it's generally not that they come back to re-idealizing, to love bombing after a time where you said like you'd been discarded a week prior. So that's might been what it felt like for you. Others might relate, might be what it feels like, but it really isn't what it is. So it's you hearing what you need to hear. It's you getting at that moment what feels to you like massive relief, and you're feeling great again. So that could be why it feels like you're love bombed again and re-idealized or idealized again. And so she was talking about how much she loved you and that you were the best husband, etc. And you said, and I believe you, that it felt to you. It was a ton of love and more than you'd heard from your wife at once. And again, here are the subtle, sometimes, big red flags. Again, you never heard this from your wife prior, but now you're hearing it after being discarded a week ago. These are the signs that people can't catch up to, because in these moments, unlike later and when you've watched a bunch of videos and looked for some information, you might not have realized that, right? Which is really painful. Might be hard to hear, and thinking back, you might go, yeah, that makes sense, but like, it's so painful. And so then, so the most love, that this commenter ever heard from his wife ever before, and ever probably received, felt, based on what she said. That's the problem, right? Based on what you wanted to hear, what felt great for you, and based on what she said. And from what you're describing here, what she said was not really her truth or what she knew for sure. No offense to you, it's not your fault. And then the commenter continues, suddenly at night, she asked me to call her in the morning. Once I called, she did a 180. She said she was miserable the entire marriage, didn't love me, and I was, quote, controlling, unquote. I am so sorry to hear that. This is what happens to so many people. And the devastation of like the joy and the wonderful feeling of thinking you were being love bombed and re-idealized the day before, but that's what you experienced it as, and that's what matters most. And she had so much love for you, more than ever before. Then she asked you to call her, and then it's a 180. And she said that you were miserable the whole marriage. Sorry to hear that. That she didn't love you. and that you were, quote, controlling, unquote. So sorry to hear that. This happens to so many people, but for each person that is in this position right now, like the commenter, it's just incredibly painful. Whether you're understanding more right now or it's still like super confusing. And I always thought the love bombing and idealization stage was at the very beginning of the relationship. She indeed did do that years ago when I first met her. But I've never heard of someone love bombing and idealizing after many, many years together, right before the discard and the ghosting. Well, and that's because the way you experienced this, commenter, that you felt love bombed and you felt re-idealized or idealized again, like the feelings for you were like the beginning of the honeymoon phase, but only you're gonna just about to be discarded. Here's a distinction that's really important for the commenter and anyone that can relate to this to understand, to try to help with your confusion in the matter, is that the commenter, you weren't re-idealized or idealized again. You weren't love bombed, but it felt like that for you. Really important distinction. It felt like that for you based on her words on the phone, based on what she said to you. The next day, it's the opposite. These are her issues, but this is your pain and agony, I'm sure, and anyone that can relate. And don't forget, when this happens, to survive the BPD relationship breakup, to deal with any codependency, that most people do have codependency, again, you need to work with somebody. This is not something you should be trying to deal with on your own. And this commenter in particular, so I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you. I'm saying that generally, not just to the commenter. But to this commenter, I would say, you would, well, I could help you, but you may or may not make that choice. To further understand in a very personal way, when I would know more details of what actually happened, but this is like a lot of details of what you're speaking about specifically, without the rest of the context. The point is that, why did you so feel that you were being love bombed and idealized again, like really almost the honeymoon phase, the first time, only to be discarded? But you felt it, and it was real for you, but it's not really what happened. I hope you can appreciate that difference, and I mean that with all due respect and heartfelt empathy. Oh, I just lost my place. Sorry, I'll find it. So I guess I'll just say quickly, the other reason why you've never heard of this before is because it isn't what happens. And so again, I have to say to you, commenter, very gently, it's what your experience was, it's how it felt for you, but it's not exactly the context of what happened. I'm sorry. I really feel for you. And the commenter says, can you please make a video one day about love bombing or idealizing a person? First of all, people with BP don't really love bomb. I should have said that earlier, but they don't really love bomb. They are in this idealization, which people experience in a way. This is what I'm going to have coming in a mini course. It'll probably be, I don't know if it'll be video and audio with maybe a bit of an ebook or a workbook, but I'm going to go deep. It should be available in the new year at ajmahari.com, unless I have another place, but I'll let you know here on the channel or on the podcast. I'm going to go deep into what is really idealization, what a lot of people describe it as. It isn't helpful because it's been largely described on how people feel, right? I got love bombed. I got idealized. And when we're talking about people with BPD, they don't love bomb like narcissists. But when you're feeling it, you're going through it, neither here nor there probably. But to understand it after and to start working on getting into a healing recovery journey, you need to realize that. So I'm going to have this e-course or mini course or audio series, I don't know, video, whatever I'm going to call it is beyond me. But it's going to go deep into really what is happening in idealization and what isn't happening from or for the untreated borderline in idealization. So watch for that coming sometime, hopefully by mid-January of 2023. And, sorry for the mini commercial, now, so I will be addressing it even more deeply than I am here. And the comment says, it's been so confusing. I didn't really sense the, quote, devaluation phase that much that I can remember. Well, and again, you know, that's your experience and could be, again, a quiet BPD, hard to say, right? And when I work with clients, I can get into all the more nuanced details when I hear the entire context and experience of the relationship, etc. And I think that that would make it extra shocking and confusing that you didn't really sense the devaluation phase that much. And the trigger was a quote, argument, unquote, at night before she left. Later, however, I found evidence to indicate she planned to leave me at least a week prior. I'm so sorry to hear that. It is very, very common and very, very shocking and painful. And so she had already probably gone past evaluation with you, was telling you what you wanted to hear, what you experienced as being love bombed and idealized again, which wasn't really what was happening. It's unconscionable how they do this to people, why they do it to people. But the thing is, they don't take personal responsibility. She already knew she was moving on. And you're having this feeling like she's giving you the most love she ever did in your marriage. I'm so sorry to hear that, because this is the diabolical nature. Even when not done consciously, the effect is still horrific. So she was planning to move on a week prior. So you were already devalued to the point where, and then I don't hear this every day. I'll give you that, right? Like, I've heard this from clients before, but this is not the most common thing I've ever heard. And please leave a comment if you see this video and it happened to you and you can relate to what this commenter is saying. Because having that phone conversation a week after discarding you, but then seemingly undoing the discard, only for you to find out later, discarded again, and she's going to the next person, already was, I think you said, let me see. You didn't really sense a devaluation. Oh, then later you found out, okay, that there was evidence to indicate she planned to leave me at least a week prior. Right, and probably because she discarded you a week prior, and maybe that's the same week you're talking about, or whether there's a 2-week period in here, then what she said to you on the phone was unfortunately anything and everything but the truth, as she was planning to move, planning to leave you, while telling you the exact opposite. And I'm really sorry again, because they're so irresponsible. They don't understand how others feel, which I'm just explaining, not excusing her behavior. And this, I hope, gives you the context, or anybody who might have a similar experience, that you weren't really being love bombed or re-idealized or idealized all over again. But she said everything that you wanted to hear, and it felt great for you and you believed her. And she was lying through her teeth to you. And at some point, it sounds like this person knew what they were doing to you. I'm really sorry to hear that. They might not know the big why underneath, but it sounds like they sure knew, as you might now know in retrospect, that when they told you all of that what you felt was love bombing and idealization and giving you all that love in her words. It wasn't that at all. I'm really sorry to have to say. So sorry, I just lost my place here. So she'd been planning to leave at least a week prior. I'm under the impression she was just going to leave anyways and use the argument as a perfect excuse to do so. Yes, I would say that that's pretty accurate, and that's what they do too, because they don't have the ability. Really, they don't. Emotionally, they're not emotionally mature enough. They have a lack of self. They don't have the ability to really communicate in any honest or personal responsibility taking way, or break up in any relatively reasonable way either. And that's just, again, an explanation, not making an excuse. But I think that you're right on target with that. They often use arguments. They often create arguments. They use whatever they can that they weren't happy about before. The argument, the last argument, an argument from 6 weeks ago to Sunday or whatever. And yes, that's their justification for what they're about to tell or to do. And then you realize, and the thing is that it doesn't justify anything. And I hope that you will be getting some help if you aren't already working with someone, so that you can really process and heal from this over time, so that you will never want her back. And I don't know where you stand there, but a lot of people, if they get hoovered back later when the other relationship doesn't work out, unfortunately they engage it again. And you said that I let her know I found evidence to suggest she planned this, and she went wide-eyed and tried to dismiss it. Yes, because she could take no personal responsibility, and because a lot of people with BPD, they lie a lot. They lie often, always in their own defense, and lack of personal responsibility taking, and lack of really understanding or caring about how you feel. And again, explanation, not excusing that. But I know that's the case. I'm sure you do. You really do. I mean that sincerely. But I hadn't perceived the devaluation stage, unless it was there and I didn't perceive it. I feel like I went in good standing with her, or that you were in good standing, yes, to idealization, to discard ghosting literally overnight. From what you describe here, commenter, that's exactly what happened. The only thing is, you perceived, so you didn't get idealized again. She was lying to you. And you perceived that. What could you do with that, right? You're hearing what you want to hear. You're wanting to believe her. When she said all those positive things to you, which I think you now know she was lying, but it made you feel so good because you didn't know that at the time. So this is, I think, commenter, why you didn't perceive the devaluation, why you didn't kind of see it coming. But please don't feel like you should have seen it coming, because many people never see it coming because they don't communicate this stuff. And if they're telling you how much they love you after they discarded you a week prior, and then they're back saying, but I really love you so much and you're the best husband ever, how are you supposed to know what's going to happen next? So please don't be hard on yourself about that, because you can't possibly keep up with what's going on with them, which is absolutely all that they are absorbed in and trying to deal with and worried about. Because the sad reality is, people with BPD untreated, unless until not having BPD anymore, essentially, they don't understand how others feel, and they don't care. They're too busy with their own internal struggles and what they need. And they have no other reference for how you feel or what's happening for you. I'm so sorry to hear that you went through this, And sorry for anybody who relates to this, has been through this, or something exactly like this or very similar. And so I think you weren't perceiving the devaluation stage, it sounds like, because you had been spoken to in what you thought was love bombing and idealization or re-idealization. But yeah, the wonderful feelings that her words gave you because you believed them. And why wouldn't you at the time, right? And I think it was there, and like I said, you didn't perceive it. And I'm so sorry, because even when one perceives it, it still really hurts. And when you said, I feel like I went from in good standing with her to that idealization, which wasn't really idealization, she was lying to you. I feel like, to discard ghosting literally overnight. It's exactly what happened to you, commenter. Really sorry to hear that. And it happens to a lot of people. And male borderlines do this to female partners, as well as females and wives or girlfriends do this to men, and lesbian women with BPD do it to their partner, or woman, female, or gay male. It happens so often. But what I really want people to take away from this video, along with whatever you might have taken away from the video, resonated with, or hopefully feel a little bit of understanding about, even though it's still going to be really painful, is that borderlines they don't really love bomb, but whatever. But they don't ever come back after discard and devaluation, which this commenter mentioned happened a week prior to the next thing that happened overnight, from one day and then 100, overnight change back to discard. Well, just know that when you're hurting so badly and you've been discarded, borderlines don't come back ever, please hear this, to re-idealize you or to, quote, love bomb you again. They don't. But it feels that way. And when they say what you want to hear and what you need to hear, and maybe even what you deserve to hear if it was the truth, right? Then you feel a certain way. And you have your emotional experience, which is like, oh, wow, okay. This is going to be okay. Things are going to go okay. And then the next thing you know, you're discarded again. Remember, when borderlines hoover, or when she discarded you and then was communicating with you again and then used an argument, which who knows if she even started it or what happened there. Often they will start it. And if not, they'll take advantage of it. And then they'll throw more at you and project more toward you because they don't know how else to, quote, go away. They don't know how else to break up. They don't know how to tell you that it's over for them because they don't have any understanding or the emotional capacity or maturity to do this. But that doesn't make it okay. So it's really important to know that, if you're in this position now and you're wondering if you're going to get another Hoover, like this person got a Hoover. I know it wasn't really totally off, but like it was, he got the discard and then he got the Hoover and then he got overnight another discard. Because the Hoover was a lie in this case of the commenter. But what I really want to say, and I have a playlist on BPD and Hoovers and reverse Hoovers and stealth reverse Hoovers and all that stuff, and many videos out there. But the point on this channel about that. But what I wanted to say was, please understand, and this is difficult, because when you've been ghosted or discarded, even if like for a week like this commenter, or it's been 2 weeks, or it's been a long time, or whatever the case, you need to go no contact. It's very painful. It's very difficult. But when they slam the door in your face, as I've said before, you need to leave it shut. And it's a big red flag that people, aren't ready to deal with because they feel differently. And that's quite understandable. But just know when borderlines hoover, or after a discard, or devaluation that you may or may not understand or know of at that time. Now you're hearing all what you want to hear, all what you've always hoped it was and will continue to be, or will be again, because they've discarded you and you're pretty sure they're gone. And then when they come back with hoovers, they're telling you what you want to hear. They're not telling you how they feel. They're not telling you how screwed up they are inside and that they don't even understand why they feel what they feel. They just will blame it on you. And when you have those Hoover conversations and you hear how much they love you and they say all of this, quite sort of egregiously in the way that they do these things and more, and then you believe it, because why wouldn't you? You want to. Just know, borderline Hoovers are about what they need, about what they might think they feel but don't really feel, and often, as in this commenter's case, a methodology that isn't necessarily conscious, but this person must have had some conscious awareness, as I was saying in a previous video, that they knew what they were doing. And when they said all those wonderful things to you, must have known they were lying. Maybe got confused with that, but must have known they were lying. So when borderlines Hoover, when they give you the call back at whatever time and juncture, however it works, and you really want them back, or you want it to be okay, as in the case of this commenter, because it all happened pretty quickly, they're telling you what you want to hear. They're saying what they need to hear, because they're in pursuit of their own needs always. And that is about their brokenness. It is motivated by repetition compulsion cycles of things that they don't consciously understand about themselves. But it doesn't at all excuse how they end up treating, hurting, and incredibly wounding other people, for which they will take no responsibility, no accountability, and just sort of trundle on looking like life's great for them. But trust me, life isn't great for them. And they're going to go on and do the same, repetition compulsion cycle all over again, starting with the idealization phase. Yes, it is something. But again, in that mini course I have coming, hopefully by mid-January, and I'll let you know where, and there'll be a part of it up here, a trailer, so to speak. I'm going to explain why this is so predictable, but how people really can't know it at the same time, and what really is BPD idealization, and how, just like this caller felt love-bombed and idealized all over again, or re-idealized, which people with BPD do not do, the first time around is as untrue as it was for this commenter the second time. And so I'll have more coming on that. And in the meantime, I hope this was helpful in terms of people understanding more. But I realize it's really painful what this commenter went through, what others who can relate to it went through. And so I'm never excusing what these people are doing in their discarding and their ghosting, and they're not caring about how you feel at all, which has generally been what's been going on for the whole relationship. But people don't understand that when they're in these relationships. So just hope it was helpful. And as I seek to explain, to help people with parts of confusion generally here on the channel or on the podcast that I have, I can help much more in one-to-one sessions, and I'm out here to work with people who resonate with me. So anyways, everybody take care. And to the commenter, my heart goes out to you, and I feel a lot of empathy for you. And I just hope that you'll be able to get into a healing recovery journey working with someone now, to keep that door closed and to process incredible pain, but to make sure that you don't open to her ever hoovering you again and lying to you like that ever again. Take care.